Hi, I'm Bob Klimko from ORBIS Corporation. Today with me is Bob McGuire, Vice President of Logistics for Alpha Baking, and Pat Kennedy, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Kennedy Group. Thanks for joining us today. Bob, can you describe Alpha Baking's distribution system?
Alpha Baking has been in business since the late 1970s. We currently have 4 bakeries located within the Midwest. We employ 17 distribution centers throughout the Midwestern area, serving 11 states with fresh product on a daily basis. We employ approximately 300 route trucks daily. We have approximately 350,000 trays in the system that we use to serve fresh bread throughout the Midwest daily.
Pat, can you take a few minutes to describe RFID technology?
Sure, Bob. In its simplest terms, RFID technology is a transfer of data that occurs between an electronic tag and a device we call a reader. And the purpose simply is to track or identify assets, inventory. Some cases it's used to track animals or perhaps even people. The main advantage, though, to RFID technology is that it doesn't require a line of sight. So that brings tremendous value in the sense that users of the technology gain a lot in terms of labor savings and also improve their accuracy.
Bob, how does asset tracking work for your distribution system?
Product is packaged and then put into trays. You'll note that every tray has an ID on it, an RFID ID. Each individual ID is specific to this tray. All license plates are unique, and we are able to then take these trays that are filled with product and then be able to read where this tray is going when we ship the product out. So at the 4 production facilities, we are able to track where this tray is going. The project to date has been in a test phase, and what we have done is we have identified approximately 10% of our trays. But to date, we've been able to identify through this process of these trays going out, knowing the ship to, and then when the trays return, it's read again. So we're able to then know when it left the production facility and when it returned, if it ever returned. This gives us some very solid reads in which to work with and from a planning standpoint.
Why do you feel asset tracking is critical for your system?
Tray tracking is critical because without it, our bakery and all bakeries have to continue to replenish the lost trays. And not knowing where these tray losses are being incurred does not allow for us to ever correct the problem. We continue to band-aid it by continuing to purchase more of these. Without knowing where the trays are being lost, it's impossible to solve the problem. If you can't measure it, you can't correct it. Why the tray tracking process is so valuable to our bakery is the obvious. We get to lower our overall purchase of trays by knowing where the shrinks are occurring and where we have an opportunity to improve. The other areas, there's a tremendous amount of hidden costs that don't necessarily hit the radar screen when you don't have the trays where you need them at the proper time. There's a lot of additional handling. There's a lot of delays in the production lines. There is corrugated expense. There's a lot of expense associated with not having bread trays at the proper place at the proper time. So is it important to us? Absolutely. These are bottom line dollars that are being lost because of a lack of accountability as to where they are going and if they ever come back or not. So this is extremely important for us to help define the problem, in our case, tray loss. This helps us to define the problem in order to establish corrective action.
What are the key results and learnings of your asset tracking program?
We have found out that the majority of our tray losses is coming from a minority of our ship-tos. And it's across the board in all different types of distribution arrangements that we employ here at Alpha Baking. So by identifying those handful of ship-tos, we were able to take direct corrective action and employ the tactics necessary to basically be able to have the trays returned for reusage. And we believe that the corrective actions that we put in place are long-term, sustainable corrective actions. So the learnings here have been where the tray losses have been, why in some cases, and the other important learning that we've basically been able to get a better understanding of right now is the turn times of the trays by ship to. Again, without knowing this in the past, and this was totally impossible to know, even by manually checking trays in and out at the dock, which is the only way people were ever trying to track their trays, was to stand at the end of the dock and count the trays coming in off every route truck, and then count them on the outbound side and make sure that the ones coming in equal the ones going out. But that didn't tell you the individual tray. It didn't tell you the individual accounts. It didn't give you any specifics. It didn't tell you how long that tray was out there. So there was absolutely no measurement going on in terms of turn times on trays. Again, if you can't measure it, you can't improve upon it. What we have been able to do now is to understand by ship to category and by ship to account, we now understand how long on average it takes to turn a tray, which helps us better plan in terms of the types of accounts and customers and growth, whereby how many trays we should need in order to satisfy our customers.
How does reporting improve your system?
Well, the reporting, it's very simple. The reporting is very simple to work with. The processes that we basically have put together, we've custom designed, literally give us a read on any ship-to lane, any type of a carrier, any type of an agency, any type of a supplier, a depot, and it easily tells us the performance of reusable asset tracking and gives you a very quick look in terms of is there anything that basically hits the radar screen. We've been able to put it together so that we're able to categorize all ship-tos and categorize them by ship-tos. So therefore, if anything was to be out of the ordinary, it gives you a very fast read in terms of where your attentions need to be focused and employed.
Do you have any recommendations to other companies considering asset tracking?
Well, I think today, absolutely. I think today technology has changed to a point now where it's almost become affordable. There is an ROI. And anyone who is concerned with annual reusable asset losses and is frustrated by it, not to mention the amount of financial exposure and financial drain of constantly having to repurchase these assets, it clearly defines where you need to put your focus in terms of being able to have an accountability for where your reusable assets are going, being lost, and how often they're being used. And all of that goes into your equation in terms of planning. So one day I think we will look back on this whole process and we're all going to scratch our heads and wonder why it took us so long to figure out how to let technology help us in this area of our business, which is a critical one. At the end of the day, we send out hundreds of thousands of dollars every day in reusable assets, not knowing if these assets will ever return or how long they'll be out there. Yet, our business goes 7 days a week, and we need to turn these assets like any other asset. We're going to look back on this and wonder how we ever ran our businesses without having this information, and we're going to look back on it and say, boy, those were really the Stone Ages. And I think that we've come a point in time now where today, when we are asked where are our trays and where are they being lost, we can answer these questions.
Bob, what are your next steps for the program?
The second phase of this now would be to expand upon the initial 7% that we stickered and now expand that to identify all trays in our system so that we would basically be able to, at the end of the day, have very solid, very valid conclusions in terms of where the trays are going, where they're being lost, and turn times. Phase 3 of this test would then be able to take it to the depot level, which would identify the trays being assigned and allocated by route. We would know at the depot level what trays were being given to every route, those trays that were not coming back on that route, and the turn times, again, on those routes. So we could then gather more information, not only the trays going out and coming back to the production facility, but now we'd be able to take this to the route level. The fourth phase would be at the customer level. We would be able to identify the trays being given to all of our customers. We would know and be able to account for all trays in and out of all, and we have thousands of customers. We would be able to know at the customer level the tray loss. There's a handful of phases that can be incorporated into this program that will allow for us to know where the shrinkage is occurring. It may be necessary to take it all the way to phase 4, but we may find out that we're getting enough information at the end of phase 3 to be able to have a very good control of this program, of the process of tray tracking. Phase 4 may not be required. However, this program, this system that we're basically looking at employing does have that kind of capability. So right now, I think we've garnered a tremendous amount of information just through phase 1. Phase 2 we're excited about. We think phase 2 will present us with even more understanding of our business. Phase 3 will only add to that at the route level. Phase 4, if needed or not, would be more information that we could use to be able to maintain and manage our reusable assets.
Bob, I'd like to thank you for your time today to discuss your distribution center. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is a very important subject to all bakers. We all battle this issue. And you know, we're grateful to Kennedy, we're grateful to ORBIS for bringing a solution to this issue. Because at this stage of the game, there are no solutions to this program other than to continue to purchase these assets over and over again at a tremendous financial hit. And so we thank you also.